The alien girl had no legs, and the human had no friends. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's return to our main character. The alien girl had no legs, and the human had no friends. The storm over Vargon 6 began with a thin, metallic hiss, like the planet was inhaling before it screamed. Kai Renn felt the vibration through the steel floor of the night shift outpost, a tremor that made the loose tools on his workstation rattle against each other. He rubbed his tired eyes, wishing the others on base didn't pretend he was invisible. Being the quiet engineer meant he was useful but not welcome, the guy people asked for repairs but never invited to dinner. The storm warning blared across the comm panel, red lights strobing against the walls. Kai checked the sensor display out of habit, expecting the usual EM interference spikes. Instead, he froze. A life sign. Weak, non-human, and close. It flickered in and out like a heartbeat fighting to stay alive. Kai stared. No one else would see this. The others were asleep or drinking or pretending the war wasn't inching closer every day. He grabbed his half-charged field suit, cursing as the left servo lagged behind the right, and stepped into the wind. Sand sliced across his visor like razors, the storm already heavy enough to bury a man in minutes. The beacon led him toward a crater of scorched glass, glowing faintly, as if the ground still remembered the plasma blast. At first he thought the figure lying in the sand was debris. Then it moved, barely. Kai knelt, heart hammering. She was alien, unmistakably. Violet skin, charcoal hair matted with dust, armor cracked open like a broken shell. And where her legs should have been, there were only 2 seared stumps, still smoking in the cold air. Her eyes snapped open at his touch, golden and sharp even through pain. She tried to lift a blade that wasn't there. "Don't," she rasped, voice brittle. As shattered stone. "Human, leave." Kai swallowed hard. "I can't do that." She coughed, a thin trail of purple blood running down her chin. Warrior, without legs, already dead. A blast of wind nearly tore him off balance. The storm was swallowing the crater. They had seconds. Not tonight. Kai muttered, sliding his arms underneath her. She clawed weakly at his chest, digging into his suit as if she still needed to prove she was dangerous. But the moment he lifted her, her strength gave out, her head falling against his shoulder. He felt the heat of her blood soaking through the fabric, a steady pulse that reminded him she didn't have much time. Every step back to the outpost was a fight. Lightning arced sideways, ripping open dunes and showering him with burning fragments. His boots slipped on glassy sand as he shielded the alien girl's body from the storm, feeling her trembling with every breath she had left. The outpost came into view at last, a dim beacon fighting the darkness. Kai shoved through the airlock, the door sealing behind him with a gasp of pressured air. He lowered her to the med slab, hands shaking as he reached for the emergency gel pack. She stared at him through half-closed eyes, confusion flickering across her face. "Why carry me?" Kai didn't answer. He just pressed the gel to the cauterized wounds and whispered, "Stay awake. Please." Outside, thunder shook the walls. Inside, the quiet between them felt louder than the storm. Kai watched her eyelids flutter as if she were fighting sleep with the last thread of what she had left. And in that fragile moment, he realized he wasn't rescuing a stranger on a battlefield, but someone whose fate had suddenly become tied to his. The storm outside the outpost kept pounding against the metal walls, a low, rhythmic vibration that made the light above the med slab flicker in uneven pulses. Kai Renn stood over the alien girl, his gloves sticky with dried purple blood as the emergency gel sealed the worst edges of her wounds. She was drifting in and out of consciousness, her breaths thin, controlled, like a warrior refusing to show pain even at the edge of death. "Stay with me," Kai murmured. He knew she probably could not hear him, but the silence felt too heavy to bear. The scanner pulsed, showing her vitals. Weak but stabilizing. Not good, not safe, but alive. Kai exhaled, tension dropping from his shoulders for the first time since stepping into the storm. He removed his helmet, letting cool, filtered air brush against his face. His blonde hair clung damply to his forehead. He wiped a smear of her blood from his cheek without thinking, more concerned with calibrating the med arm to her physiology. The machine kept flashing warning symbols, struggling to understand her biology. He had to override half of its protocols to keep it from assuming she was a hostile organism and shutting down. Her eyelids twitched. She was aware again, if only barely. "What is your name?" Kai asked quietly. Her voice came out like shattered glass. "Aeryn." The name felt like a battle cry spoken in a whisper. "I am Kai," he said. "You are safe now." Her eyes opened fully for a second, sharp golden rings locking onto him. "No one's safe," she breathed. "They left me. They always finish the job." Kai shook his head. "Not this time." But Aeryn's gaze slid to the door, to the humming shield emitters barely visible through the glass wall. "Your people," she rasped, "will kill me first. Or yours." "No one is killing you," Kai replied, firmer than he expected. She watched him, confused. Distrust and disbelief fought inside her expression. Kai realized that in whatever world she came from, kindness was probably negotiable, rare, or weaponized. He turned away to adjust the med slab's temperature. Her body required a higher heat index to avoid shock. She tried to push herself up, her arms trembling violently. "Stop," Kai said, moving fast to steady her shoulders. Aeryn's voice turned sharp. "Warrior never lies on back. I must sit." There was pride in the way she said it, and shame in the way her muscles failed her. Kai slowly lifted her upper body, propping her upright with a padded support. Even that small movement made her gasp, and she dug her fingers into his sleeve to steady herself. Her grip was surprisingly strong for someone seconds from passing out. Aeryn's gaze wandered over the room, scanning exits, vents, shadows. Kai realized she was mapping escape routes despite being too injured to crawl. The instinct of someone who had lived in danger for far too long. "You are in my outpost," Kai said. "Just me. Tonight." Aeryn frowned. "Human alone?" "I take the night shifts," Kai answered. "It is quieter." She tilted her head slightly. "You choose silence?" Kai paused. The answer came out softer than he meant. "Silence chooses me." For a moment, neither spoke. The storm outside screamed against the walls, lightning flickering through the reinforced windows like molten veins. Aeryn's golden eyes softened, not with pity, but with recognition. She understood the shape of loneliness. She had lived inside it too. The scanner beeped a warning. Her blood pressure was dropping again. Kai grabbed a thermal blanket and wrapped it around her carefully. Aeryn startled, spine going rigid. He froze. "It is just a blanket," he said, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. She blinked slowly, as if trying to process the idea. "My people do not cover the dying. We burn them." Kai gently tucked the blanket around her shoulders. "You are not dying tonight." Her expression flickered, something raw crossing her face. Not gratitude. Not yet. But the beginning of trust built on survival. Suddenly the outpost's perimeter alarm shrieked. Kai's heart lurched. Aeryn immediately tried to rise, muscles failing. "They come," she whispered. "To finish me." Kai grabbed his rifle and checked the monitor. Drones. Not human. Not his. They were closing in fast through the storm, their signatures blinking like hunting eyes. Aeryn's voice dropped into a rasp of fear and fury. "Kai, if they find me, they will erase us both." But Kai was already moving, pulse hammering. "Let them come," he said. "I am not losing you." The storm roared louder, as if the planet itself was leaning in to watch what would happen next. The perimeter alarm kept screaming, a sharp metallic pulse that cut straight through the storm's roaring outside. Kai Renn sprinted to the main console, boots skidding on the grated floor as warning symbols flashed across every screen. Aeryn watched him with widening eyes, her grip tightening around the blanket he had wrapped around her. "Kai," she whispered, voice hoarse. "Tell me what you see." Kai pulled up the visual feed. The cameras shook from the wind, but the shapes were unmistakable. Sleek, predatory silhouettes gliding low along the dunes, cutting through the storm as if they owned it. Veylori recon drones. Dozens. Aeryn's breath hitched. She dragged herself upward using the edge of the med slab, arms trembling. With effort. "They found me. They never send this many unless the order is absolute." Kai turned toward her. "What order?" Her golden eyes locked onto his. "Eradication. No survivors. No witnesses." The storm thundered again, rattling the walls like a warning. Kai slammed the manual reinforcement protocol, watching the shutters grind down over the windows. The outpost darkened to emergency lighting, everything bathed in a cold blue hue. Aeryn tried to shift, to pull her body upright despite the pain that twisted her features. "You must let me go outside," she said, breath trembling. "They will not risk firing if they see I am alive. They need proof." "You cannot even stand," Kai said, moving quickly to her side. "You would die before the door got halfway open." "Better I die by my people's hands than yours," she said quietly. She tried to slide off the med slab, but her body collapsed immediately. Kai caught her before she hit the floor. Aeryn winced, gripping his sleeve with sharp fingers. "Release me. You do not understand. You are risking your life for nothing." Kai steadied her, meeting her eyes with a calm she did not expect. "Then explain it to me." For a moment she hesitated, her chest rising with short, uneven breaths. "The Veylori elite," she whispered, "do not tolerate weakness. A warrior who cannot fight is considered a liability. A warrior with no legs is considered already dead." The words trembled despite her effort to keep them steady. "My squadron left me in the crater to ensure the shame would stay buried. If they learn I survived, every drone on this planet will burn this outpost to the ground." Kai shook his head slowly. "They do not get to decide your worth." Aeryn stared at him like he had spoken something impossible, something forbidden. The alarm blared again. This time, the lights flickered violently. Kai rushed back to the console. "They are trying to override the shield grid," he said. "If they break through, they will deploy inside." Aeryn's eyes narrowed. "Then you must fight with intention, not desperation. Let me guide you." Kai hesitated. "You are injured." "But not useless," she snapped. Her warrior's pride burned through the pain. "My legs are gone, Kai, not my mind." Her voice steadied, suddenly sharp and commanding. "Listen carefully. They will target the power node first. If they disable it, your shields fall. You must reroute the energy manually from the coolant chamber." Kai glanced toward the hatch leading deeper into the outpost, a tight maze of pipes and equipment. "That chamber barely functions." "Then make it function," Aeryn said. "Your kind builds with logic. Mine builds with instinct. Together, we can hold them off." The thought of leaving her alone, vulnerable on the med slab, sent an uneasy twist through Kai's stomach. Aeryn noticed. "I am a warrior, Kai," she whispered. "Even broken, I am not prey." Kai nodded once. Then the ceiling shook as something slammed into the roof, the entire structure groaning under impact. Aeryn flinched. "Go," she ordered, "before it is too late." Kai grabbed his tool belt and rifle, heart pounding. He paused at the doorway, looking back. Aeryn was upright again, bracing herself with her hands, jaw clenched in pain but eyes fierce. For the first time, she did not look like someone dying. She looked like someone surviving. "Aeryn," Kai said quietly, "I will come back." Her expression softened just enough to reveal the truth. She believed him. Another explosion rocked the outpost. Kai sprinted into the corridor, lights flickering overhead as dust rained down from the vents. The storm outside howled like a living creature. Behind him, in the darkened med bay, Aeryn whispered to herself, as if anchoring a future she had not dared imagine. "Do not die, Kai Renn. Not before I understand why you chose me." The drones descended, and Kai ran toward the danger, not away from it. The corridor lights trembled overhead as Kai Renn sprinted through the narrow passage, the impact of another blast shuddering through the outpost's metal skeleton. Dust drifted from the ceiling in thin streams, catching in the flicker of red emergency lights. The storm outside bellowed like a wounded beast, but the drones were louder, their metallic shrieks vibrating through the support beams as they tore at the roof. He clutched his rifle in one hand and his overloaded tool belt in the other, boots pounding the grated floor with a rhythm that matched his heartbeat. Aeryn had said they would strike the power node. That meant he had minutes at most before the shields fell. Maybe less. He reached the coolant chamber door, the keypad sparking from the storm's interference. Kai yanked off the panel and crossed the wires manually. The door hissed open, releasing a gust of frigid air that wrapped around him like icy claws. The coolant pipes lining the walls pulsed with dim blue light, but several were ruptured, leaking vapor into the room. The main conduits crackled dangerously. He whispered to himself, "Come on, Kai. Think." A violent crash echoed through the hallway behind him. Something had breached the outer defense grid. Aeryn had been right. They were not wasting time. She had told him exactly what to do, exactly where they would strike, exactly how fast. He trusted her more in these last minutes than he had trusted anyone in years. He darted to the energy transfer console and pried open the maintenance hatch. Hot steam blasted out, fogging his visor instantly. He wiped it with his sleeve, squinting through the haze. A thick cable had dislodged from the core during the storm. Without it, the shields were running on half power. He grabbed the cable and forced it back into place. A jolt of electricity surged through the chamber, and the lights steadied for the first time since the attack began. The shield integrity climbed from 32% to 60%. But it was not enough. Not with the drones outside. Kai slammed the override, rerouting every watt of auxiliary power into the outer barrier. The lights dimmed to nearly nothing as the outpost sacrificed its internal energy to stay alive. Hold together, Kai whispered. Just a little longer. A sudden metallic thud at the far end of the corridor froze him. Then another. And then the unmistakable sound of talon-like limbs scraping the walls. They were inside. Kai grabbed his rifle and pressed his back against the coolant chamber door, aiming toward the dark hall. A red laser scanned across the floor, slicing through the dim fog. A drone crawled into view, its body low and predatory, metal plating glistening beneath droplets of coolant. Its eyes glowed a hungry blue, locking onto him. Kai fired. The blast hit the drone squarely, knocking it against the wall, but it barely slowed. Sparks danced across its armor as it lunged. Kai rolled sideways, grabbing a wrench from his belt and slamming it into the drone's sensor panel. The machine screeched, spinning wildly, then crashed into a coolant pipe. Liquid sprayed everywhere, hissing on contact with its superheated joints. The drone convulsed and collapsed. Kai staggered back to his feet, chest heaving. Aeryn, he muttered. He needed to get back to her. He needed to move. He sprinted down the hall, turning sharply toward the med bay, only to skid to a halt when he heard a second noise. Not mechanical, not hostile. A voice. Kai Renn. Aeryn called from down the corridor, her tone strained but commanding. He raced toward her. She had dragged herself off the med slab and propped her back against the wall, using her arms to haul her body forward inch by inch. Sweat beaded along her temples. Her breathing was ragged, but her eyes burned with determination. You should not be out here, Kai said, kneeling beside her. She pointed past him, toward a junction box sparking violently. They are targeting the energy relays. If that one fails, your shields collapse. You must cut the red circuit and reroute the matrix. Aeryn, you are hurt, Kai said. You cannot be on the floor like this. It is too dangerous. Her fingers curled into his sleeve. Warrior does not watch death. Warrior fights it. Another explosion hammered the roof. Dust rained down on them. Kai looked into her eyes and saw no fear. Only a resolve shaped by years of battle. A resolve completely independent of her legs. He lifted her gently, carrying her back to the med bay. She clenched her jaw, silent against the pain, refusing to show weakness. When he set her back on the slab, she exhaled sharply but met his gaze with unwavering focus. Kai, she said, you saved me. Now let me save this outpost. He nodded. Then he turned toward the relays, toward the growing threat, toward the storm and the drones, and everything waiting to kill them both. And for the first time, he did not feel like he was running into danger alone. The relays crackled overhead as Kai Renn hurried down the corridor, each step echoing against the metal floor while the storm outside roared like a living creature trying to tear the outpost apart. He could feel the vibrations through his boots, the kind that warned engineers about structural fatigue long before alarms caught up. Aeryn Voss had not taken her eyes off him as he left the med bay, her voice still ringing in his ears with the kind of cold clarity only a warrior possessed. Her guidance was the only reason the outpost had not collapsed already. Kai skidded to a halt beside the junction box she had indicated earlier. The casing had split open from repeated hits, and the exposed wiring sparked wildly, sending showers of light across the wall. He pulled out his gloves and pried open the panel further, hot static zapping his fingertips. The red circuit she mentioned was buried beneath layers of scorched insulation. You are going to burn my hands today, Aeryn, he muttered, forcing the melted wires apart. A heavy thud rolled across the ceiling, followed by a screeching drag that traveled slowly, deliberately, as if one of the drones was stalking its prey from above. Kai froze for half a breath before forcing himself to keep working. The crackling wires hissed as he cut the main red circuit, rerouting the matrix just as Aeryn instructed. The outpost lights surged, dimmed, then steadied again. Shield integrity climbed from 60% to 85%. Not perfect, but enough to hold off an entire drone pack. At least for now. Kai Renn. Aeryn's voice came through the static of the comms panel he had clipped to his belt. Even weak, her tone carried the iron edge of her rank. Tell me what you see. The shield is stable, Kai said, securing the wires. But they are regrouping. I can hear them. Aeryn breathed out, slow and deliberate. They will attack in waves. They test defenses before the killing strike. Kai wiped sweat and dust from his face. So I have to stay ahead of them. You cannot fight them directly, she warned. They are faster. They are stronger. But they are predictable. Kai started jogging back toward the med bay. Predictable how? Veylori drones operate on honor patterns, she said. An echo of the warriors they were designed to replace. They strike head-on first, believing a frontal assault proves superiority. Kai let out a breath. Not great news in a narrow hallway. But good news for your species, Aeryn replied. You humans fight like water. You move around obstacles instead of through them. Kai almost smiled. He was not used to compliments, especially not from someone who had every reason to distrust him. He reached the medbay door and pushed it open. Aeryn was sitting upright again, braced against the head of the slab, sweat beading along her temples. Her breathing was shallow but steady. Her eyes sharp despite the pain. She had dragged the emergency console closer to her and was rerouting secondary vents manually with deft fingers. Even without legs, she held herself with a dignity that made the room feel too small for her presence. Kai knelt beside her. I rerouted the matrix. Shields should hold. Aeryn nodded faintly. Good. Then listen closely, Kai Renn. We must survive the next assault. After that, their energy reserves will weaken and their coordination will fracture. Kai's brow furrowed. Which means they will become desperate, she said. And desperation makes machines behave like frightened animals. That is when they are vulnerable. A sudden crash hammered against the door, making both of them jolt. The metal dented inward as claws scraped across its surface. Kai raised his rifle instinctively. Aeryn raised her chin, refusing to flinch. They know I am inside, she said quietly. They know you protect me. Kai swallowed hard. The truth came out before he could stop it. I am not letting them take you. Her golden eyes softened, just a fraction. Kai, she said, voice low, you do not have to fight for me. Yes, he answered, gripping his rifle tighter, I do. The door buckled again, deeper this time. A red warning flashed. Structural breach detected. Aeryn's fingers curled into the blanket as she whispered, when they enter, follow my voice. I will guide your strike. You must trust me. Kai set his stance, adrenaline burning in his veins. I already do. The door split open. Metal screamed. The first drone forced its way through, glowing eyes fixed on the two of them. Aeryn inhaled sharply. Kai, she commanded, move left. And he obeyed without question. The drone lunged the moment Kai Renn moved left, its claws slicing through the air where his head had been a heartbeat earlier. Sparks exploded as its talons scraped the metal wall, the impact echoing like a gunshot through the med bay. Aeryn Voss's voice cut through the chaos with sharp precision. Aim for its lower joint. The weaker seam. Now. Kai pivoted, rifle raised, squeezing the trigger just as the drone spun to face him. The blast struck the joint Aeryn had identified, and the drone let out a mechanical shriek, staggering as its limb malfunctioned. It crashed against a storage cabinet, knocking medical tools across the floor. Before Kai could breathe, another metallic shadow crawled through the fractured doorway, its blue sensors locked onto Aeryn with predatory focus. Aeryn's breath caught, her body tensing even though she could not move from the waist down. Kai, she said, voice dropping low. Do not let it reach me. Kai sprinted to intercept, sliding across the floor as the drone pounced. He fired again, but the drone twisted midair, the shot grazing its armor. It landed on the slab, inches from Aeryn, metal legs digging into the surface. She stared it down, chin raised, refusing to show fear even when its blade appendage unfolded above her chest. Kai grabbed a fallen wrench and hurled it with everything he had. The tool smashed into the drone's optical sensors, cracking them into a web of shattered blue. The machine screeched, thrashing blindly. Aeryn reached for a medical scalpel and rammed it into the drone's neck seam, jamming the mechanism. Sparks erupted. Kai dove in, firing point blank. The drone toppled backward, collapsing onto the floor in a heap of burning circuitry. The room filled with smoke, the smell sharp and metallic. Kai's lungs burned as he coughed, waving away the dark fumes. Aeryn leaned back against the headrest, her breath trembling with exhaustion but her eyes still fierce. "You move well," she said quietly. "For someone who claims to be just an engineer." Kai wiped sweat and soot from his forehead. "You give very good instructions." A faint smile tugged at the corner of her lips, though it quickly vanished when the outpost trembled again. This impact was different, heavier, deeper, like something massive had landed outside. Kai checked the console. His heart dropped. They brought a breacher unit. Aeryn's eyes hardened. "Then we have little time." The breacher was not a drone. It was a walking battering ram, built to punch through bunkers. If it reached the core wall, there would be nothing left of the outpost, or anyone in it. Kai paced, adrenaline pounding through him. "There has to be something we can do." Aeryn inhaled deeply, steadying herself. "There is. But you must understand something first." Kai turned to her, confused. Her golden eyes fixed on him, sharp despite the pain. "My people are not supposed to use drones for recovery," she said. "They only deploy them for elimination. They want me gone. And anyone who helped me." Kai swallowed, anger simmering beneath his fear. "Why? What did you do?" Aeryn hesitated for the first time since he met her. Her voice softened, losing its warrior edge. "I refused an execution order. A village of civilians. They claimed they were insurgent sympathizers. I saw children." She looked away, shame flickering across her face. "So I disobeyed. They punished me quietly. My squadron left me in that crater so the war could move on without the inconvenience of my conscience." Kai's chest tightened. He had met soldiers like her only in stories, those who carried honor even when their own armies abandoned it. "You did the right thing," he said. "That is why they want me erased," she whispered. The breacher slammed the outer wall, shaking dust loose from the ceiling. Aeryn grabbed his wrist suddenly, gripping it with surprising strength. "Kai, you must overload the coolant core." Kai's eyes widened. "That will shut down every system in the outpost, including life support." "Yes," she said, "but it will also freeze the breacher. Temporarily. Enough for you to disable it." "And you?" Kai asked, breath tight. Aeryn met his gaze without flinching. "I am a warrior who cannot run. My fate does not matter." Kai knelt beside her, refusing to let those words stand. "It matters to me." For the first time, she looked shaken, as if no one had ever said those words to her before. The breacher roared again. The wall began to crack. Aeryn's fingers tightened around his hand. "Kai, if you can save yourself, do it." He shook his head. "I am not leaving you." Her breath caught, a soft sound lost under the thunder of destruction. She whispered, barely audible, "Why?" "Because," Kai said, rising to his feet, "you are not alone anymore." With that, he sprinted toward the coolant core, the storm screaming outside, the breacher tearing through the walls, and Aeryn watching him with an expression that held something she had not allowed herself to feel in a very long time: hope. The outpost shook so violently that Kai Renn nearly lost his footing as he sprinted toward the coolant core chamber, the breacher's pounding echoing like a giant metallic heartbeat racing through every beam and bolt. Cold vapor curled along the floor from ruptured pipes, swirling around his boots in pale ribbons. He could hear Aeryn Voss's ragged breathing through the comm device clipped to his belt, each inhale tight, each exhale laced with pain she refused to acknowledge. Her voice came through the static, thin but firm. "Kai, the breacher is closing in on the core wall. You must act now." Kai slammed into the coolant chamber door controls. The panel sparked under his fingers before finally accepting the command, opening with a groaning hiss. A blast of icy air surged out, coating his visor in a thin layer of frost. He wiped it with his sleeve, stepping inside. The entire chamber pulsed with electric blue light, the coolant lines beating like veins delivering frozen lifeblood to the outpost. The core unit in the center throbbed with heat. Overloading it would trigger a rapid freeze wave that could immobilize the breacher, but only if the timing was perfect. And only if the operator was close enough to trigger the failsafe manually. Too close. Kai reached for the manual override lever, but Aeryn's voice cut sharply through the calm. Wait. Listen to me. Kai froze. Aeryn, we do not have time. You must calculate the pulse delay, she said, words trembling but precise. If you overload the coolant without staggering the heat coils, the blast will rupture the chamber. You will die instantly. That is not the plan, Kai said through gritted teeth. I am trying to keep both of us alive. Then trust me. He paused, breathing hard, staring at the oscillating coolant core. Her voice softened. Kai, you cannot save me by dying. Listen. He exhaled slowly and bent over the console. She guided him through the sequence: vent circulation, power redistribution, coil separation. Even weakened, half-conscious, and barely able to stay upright, Aeryn's mind remained a weapon sharper than any blade. She had been a commander once. He could hear it in every instruction. Another impact thundered through the structure. The chamber lights flickered. Metal groaned as the breacher carved deeper into the outpost skeleton. Aeryn inhaled sharply through clenched teeth. Kai now. Pull the lever. Kai grasped the override, bracing himself. 3, Aeryn whispered. 2. The breacher roared, its claws ripping open the final layers of the wall. 1. Kai yanked the lever down. The entire chamber exploded in white fog as the coolant core overloaded, unleashing a shockwave of brutal, freezing vapor. The ground trembled under his boots, frost creeping across every surface with unnatural speed. The emergency lights went black. Kai stumbled backward as frost rose, like living smoke, filling the room and slamming outward through the vents, directly into the breacher's path. He heard it scream, a metallic, distorted bellow, followed by the violent crack of metal freezing mid-motion. Kai stumbled to the doorway and peered into the hall. The breacher was encased in a thick shell of ice, frozen mid-swing like a statue of war. He let out a shaky breath. Aeryn, he said into the calm. It worked. No response. His chest tightened. Aeryn. Static. Nothing else. Fear carved through him sharper than any blade. He bolted down the corridor, boots splashing through melting frost as the emergency lights flickered weakly back to life. He reached the med bay and shoved the door open. Aeryn had collapsed sideways on the slab, her upper body twisted as if she had tried to keep giving directions even as unconsciousness dragged her under. Her skin had gone pale violet, her breathing shallow. Aeryn, Kai whispered, rushing to her side. He lifted her gently, cradling her back into position. Her eyelids fluttered, barely opening. Kai, she breathed. Are we alive? He let out a laugh that sounded more like a sob. Because of you. You saved us. Her gaze drifted toward the frosted doorway, where the frozen silhouette of the breacher was visible through the haze. She exhaled, a faint tremor running through her. Warrior. Fights with mind when body fails. Kai brushed a strand of her charcoal hair away from her face. You are not done fighting, he said. Not while I am here. Her eyes, heavy-lidded, softened. For a moment, her walls dropped, revealing something she never allowed anyone to see. Vulnerability. Gratitude. And something else, something she was not ready to name. Kai, she whispered. Do not leave. I am right here, he said, squeezing her hand. And I am not going anywhere. Outside, the storm howled. Inside, for the first time since they met, Aeryn allowed herself to close her eyes, because she finally believed she was safe. The med bay was quieter now, the alarms reduced to a distant hum. The storm outside finally losing strength as dawn bled faint light across the frozen dunes. Kai Renn had not moved from Aeryn Voss's side, his hand still wrapped around hers as her breathing steadied. Frost clung to the corners of the room, a lingering reminder of how close they had come to dying. When Aeryn finally stirred, her golden eyes opening slowly, Kai leaned forward. How do you feel? He asked softly. She blinked, her gaze focusing on him with effort. Cold. Alive. Irritated. Kai smiled despite everything. That sounds like an improvement. She tilted her head, studying him. You stayed here the entire night. I was not going to leave you alone. Something flickered across her face. Surprise, confusion, something deeper. But before she could speak, a loud crack echoed through the outpost. Kai instantly reached for his rifle. Aeryn's fingers tightened on his wrist. "Wait," she whispered. "Do you hear that?" The sound came again, metal shifting, not with violence, but with weight. Slow, purposeful, not a drone, not the storm. The sensors flickered to life on the console beside them, struggling to interpret the new energy signature approaching from the east ridge. Kai stood, checking the display. His heart stopped. "A ship," he murmured. "A Veylori ship. Not drones. A manned vessel." Aeryn pushed herself upright on trembling arms, her breath sharpening. "Describe the insignia." Kai zoomed the feed. The crest glowed faintly on the side of the sleek vessel, a rising trident of silver flame. Aeryn's voice dropped. "No, that is not possible. Aeryn, what does it mean?" She swallowed hard, the strength in her expression cracking just enough for Kai to see the fear buried beneath. "That insignia belongs to the High Marshal." Kai frowned. "A military commander?" Aeryn shook her head. "The military commander. The highest authority in the Veylori Dominion. The ruler of our war fleet." The ship descended gracefully, its landing thrusters melting frost into steam. Kai stepped between Aeryn and the window, instinctively shielding her. "Why would your leader come here?" Aeryn's voice trembled for the first time since he met her. "Because he did not believe I died." Kai turned to her. "Why does he care?" She inhaled slowly, her eyes locked on the descending ship. "Because," she hesitated, then forced the words out. "Because he is my father." The revelation hit Kai like a punch to the chest. Aeryn Voss, the abandoned soldier with no legs, the warrior her squad left to die, was the daughter of the most powerful military figure in her species. "Your team left you to die?" Kai said quietly. "Even though you are the High Marshal's daughter?" Aeryn's jaw tightened. "Because I am the High Marshal's daughter." His enemies saw a chance to remove me. My squadron was compromised. I was not supposed to survive the blast. I was supposed to vanish quietly so a rival could rise. She looked away, shame and anger twisting inside her. "But now he knows I am alive, and he will not leave without me." The ship's landing clamps touched the ground, sending vibrations through the outpost floor. The main hatch opened with a chilling hiss. Frost-scented air swept in. Heavy footsteps approached, measured, commanding, the stride of someone who expected obedience in every world he stepped upon. Aeryn gripped Kai's sleeve, her strength failing but her voice barely above a whisper. "Kai, you must understand something. If my father sees you, he will assume you captured me, or used me, or manipulated me during my weakness. Humans in Veylori are not allies. He will not trust your motives." Kai stared at her. "I saved your life. He will not care." The footsteps grew louder. Closer. Kai reached for his rifle, but Aeryn seized his wrist. "No, do not fight him. You cannot win. I am not letting anyone take you," Kai said, voice hardening. "Not after everything we survived." Her eyes softened, grief and gratitude mixing in their golden depths. "Kai, I do not want to be taken." The door to the med bay slid open with a sharp metallic chime. A towering figure entered, a Veylori male in ceremonial armor, his presence filling the room with cold authority. His eyes, the same golden shade as Aeryn's, locked instantly on Kai. He drew a blade crackling with indigo plasma. "Step away from my daughter," the High Marshal commanded. Kai did not move. Aeryn exhaled sharply. "Father, stop." The High Marshal's gaze flicked to her, widening as he saw the extent of her injuries. Then his focus returned to Kai, sharp as a blade. "Human," he said, voice deep and lethal. "What have you done to her?" Kai lifted his chin. "I saved her." The High Marshal's blade hummed louder. "Prove it." Aeryn reached for Kai's hand, gripping it tightly. Her voice was weak, but her words cut through the tension like steel. "He carried me through the storm. He fought your drones. He protected me when my own people abandoned me." She drew a shuddering breath. "Father, he is the reason I am alive." The High Marshal froze. The silence that followed was colder than the frost still clinging to the walls. Aeryn looked at Kai, her voice softening with a truth she could no longer hide. "Father, this human did what our own would not." The High Marshal lowered his blade slowly, eyes narrowing as he studied Kai with a very different suspicion, one born not from distrust, but from fear. "Why?" he asked quietly. "Would a human risk his life for my daughter?" Kai did not look away. "Because she deserved to live." The High Marshal stared at him, unreadable, then turned to Aeryn. "Daughter, You have always been difficult. Aeryn managed a faint, dry smile. It is hereditary. The High Marshal almost smiled. Almost. But the air was still tense, unsteady, fragile. When he turned back to Kai, his expression was no longer lethal but calculating. Human, he said, you have altered the fate of my bloodline. The silence that followed carried a weight Aeryn did not yet understand, and Kai could not yet see. The air inside the med bay felt impossibly still after the High Marshal's final words, as if the outpost itself was holding its breath. Kai Renn stood frozen, unsure whether he had just been condemned, spared, or marked for something he did not yet understand. Aeryn Voss looked from her father to Kai, her chest rising with slow, strained breaths. The High Marshal stepped deeper into the room, his heavy armor softly humming with every controlled movement. Up close, he looked carved from the same iron discipline that shaped Aeryn, yet with eyes that carried the weight of decades of war. He approached his daughter first, kneeling beside the slab with a gentleness that contrasted violently with the lethal authority he displayed moments ago. His voice softened. Aeryn, tell me everything. She met his gaze without flinching. You already know the part that matters. They left me to die. I refused an order that violated the code. I refused to burn innocents. The High Marshal closed his eyes briefly, pain flickering over his face like the passing shadow of an old wound. There are factions rising against me, he said quietly. I suspected treachery. I did not know they would target you. Aeryn's fingers curled around the blanket. Father, they nearly succeeded. His jaw tightened, fury barely contained. Not nearly. They will answer. Slowly, the High Marshal rose and turned to Kai. Human, he said, voice once again cold and assessing. You saved Aeryn's life, more than once. That is a debt that cannot be ignored. Kai straightened, meeting the alien commander's gaze with steady resolve. I did what anyone should have done. Incorrect, the High Marshal replied. Most would not have dared. Your kindness was not strategic. It was human. He said the word like it was something fragile, something he had rarely encountered. Aeryn's eyes softened as they found Kai. He risked everything, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. And he never asked for anything in return. The High Marshal studied Kai for what felt like a full minute. Then, unexpectedly, he sheathed his plasma blade. My daughter is alive because of you. My command is intact because of you. For this, you are under my protection. Kai blinked, not expecting the shift. Aeryn's eyes widened slightly in shock. Father, be silent, Aeryn, he said, though not unkindly. I am not a fool. I know what they intended, and I know who stood between death and survival. He moved toward the door, gesturing to his guards waiting outside. Prepare the transport. We leave as soon as she is stable. Aeryn looked stricken, torn between relief and dread. Kai stepped closer to her side, lowering his voice. You do not want to go with him. She held his gaze, pain flickering in her eyes. I want to live, but I do not want to disappear into the Dominion like a political tool. Not after this. Kai's throat tightened. Aeryn, you have a choice. She exhaled shakily. Do I? Her father turned back to her. We return home. Our healers will rebuild what was taken from you. Aeryn stiffened. They will replace my legs, she said quietly, but not my freedom. The High Marshal hesitated, just a fraction, but it was enough. He looked at her again, truly looked at her, as if seeing past the warrior he raised to the woman shaped by everything beyond his control. Then his gaze drifted to Kai, reading something unspoken in the space between them. The storm outside had fully calmed now. Dawn cast pale gold light across the scorched dunes and the frozen breacher statue. The world felt suspended. The High Marshal exhaled slowly. Aeryn, he said, softer than before, you are my daughter. But you are also your own. Aeryn's eyes widened. She had expected orders, commands, destiny, not permission. If you choose to return with me, the High Marshal said, you will be honored. If you choose to remain here, his gaze moved to Kai again. This time, the suspicion was gone. Only wary acceptance remained. Then your path is your own. Aeryn's voice cracked. Father, he approached her again, placing a hand gently over hers. You have endured enough shame and silence. I will not add to it. Kai felt something loosen in his chest, something he did not realize he had been holding. Aeryn looked at him, eyes shining with a mixture of fear, relief, and something deeper, something she had not let herself feel until now. Kai, she whispered. What should I do? He reached for her hand, holding it carefully between his. Choose the place where you are not abandoned. Her breath trembled at his answer. She looked at her father, then at Kai, then back at the growing light outside the cracked window. I choose here, she whispered. For now, I stay. The High Marshal nodded once, accepting without argument. Then I will return for you when you call. Aeryn managed a faint smile. Do not come with an army. I will try, he said, almost amused. The tension in the room broke, replaced by a quiet understanding. The High Marshal turned to his guards. Prepare to depart. Leave the human outpost intact. It is now under Dominion protection. When the shuttle engines roared to life outside, Aeryn leaned back against the slab, exhausted but free in a way she had not been since before the war. Kai remained beside her, the soft hum of the departing ship fading into the quiet dawn. Aeryn looked at him, her golden eyes reflecting the morning light. Kai Renn, she whispered, you had no friends. He squeezed her hand gently. And you had no legs. Her smile warmed. But now neither of us is alone. The outpost settled into silence, the kind that carried meaning instead of fear. And in that silence, with frost thawing and dawn breaking, the unlikely bond between a lonely human and a broken warrior became something stronger than survival, something quietly extraordinary.